recording button. So Angela, all yours.
Okay, so again, thank you everyone. I'm going to share my screen now, so we'll have some slides that we'll be able to look at as we go through this content. Having said that, I did say, we can ask questions at the end, but if there is something that you think is really relevant there, I'm okay with that too. I'm flexible. So today's topic that we're going to talk about is transitioning from peer to supervisor. And one of the things that often happens as we continue to develop and grow is the people that we were once working side by side with, or those who were hired at the same time as us, we look up one day and maybe we get a promotion and now we're their supervisor. And that can be a very awkward situation. We could also already be in a position of leadership, but team members with other leaders, and then one of us is elevated higher than the rest. So this is the purpose of this presentation, because I have found in my HR experience that a lot of people really struggle with this. So I kind of told you a little bit about myself, but I'll just say it again for the purposes of the recording. My name is Angela Hooper Minifield, and I'm also president and owner of Minifield and Associates, LLC. I do success coaching for executives, entrepreneurs, senior managers, and public officials. I'm also a motivational and keynote speaker, an executive director with the John Maxwell team. I'm DISC Level 2 certified as a human behavior consultant. I previously spent 28 and a half years with the federal government, and the majority of that time I spent as a senior manager. So even though I was in the hierarchy or the leadership track, I also, because of my passion for human resources, served in that capacity for our organization. I'm certified with both the Society of Human Resource Management and Human Resource Certification Institute, and carry both of their certifications. So please know that it's an honor and a privilege to join you. And really what my purpose is today is to just try to add value to you as we either introduce you to those struggles as a new supervisor, or if you're just leading at a new level, one you haven't led at before. So when we talk about supervision, the first thing I always like to start with is the foundation. What does it really mean to supervise? So the dictionary here, Webster, tells me that supervising is basically the action or process of watching and directing what someone does or how something is done. So it's the action and process of supervising either someone or something. Now, some of us supervise individuals, and some people supervise committees, projects, and work. One of the things I found really interesting about the definition was, though, it specifically says watching and directing. Now, as an HR professional, some of you may have heard employees complain and say that they feel as if their supervisors are always watching them, quote unquote. Well, if we think about the core definition of the word, it's connected. So as supervisors, that's really what we should be doing, watching and directing something or someone. So one of the things I like to start with is, how do most people actually learn how to supervise? Well, John Maxwell talks about the law of the picture, as in people do what people see. So just as children learn their behaviors oftentimes from their parents, and we have this cute little picture here of a little boy practice shaving with his dad, most of us, if we're really honest with ourselves, we learn how to supervise from being supervised. So we end up doing, or not, if we think we had a bad supervisor, what it was done to us. So often the core components of that transition are not taught. But first, I'd like to talk a little bit about what supervision is not. Supervision is not yelling at our employees. It's not telling them what to do, screaming at them, barking orders, as some people have been known to do. Another thing that supervision isn't, it isn't micromanaging. If we give someone a task to do, and we need to empower them to do it. So we don't need to stand over their shoulders and over scrutinize how they do the little things. The last thing I'll say is supervision is not degrading people. You know, John Maxwell is known for saying that we do one or two things when we have connections with people. We either add value to them or we take value away. So if we're degrading our employees as a supervisor, we're not adding value to them. We want to be those people who don't degrade, yell, or micromanage our team. So when we talk about where we are first as a peer, one of the things we have to acknowledge is oftentimes we're friends with these people who are our peers, right? We have fun together, we socialize together. They're our equals. We don't have any power or authority over them. They have no power or authority over us. These are the people that we share our family successes with. These are the people we eat lunch with. These are the people we've built a relationship with. So when we're in that peer only area, we're actually only accountable for ourselves. Then we're promoted. Now we're the supervisor. One of the things that may happen is we may be required to evaluate our former peers' performance or their work. So we have to figure out, is this work good? Is it meeting the expectations? As a supervisor, we may also have the responsibility now of issuing or delivering a reprimand or disciplining this person, suspensions, write-ups, and things like that. When we become supervisors, we're now accountable for others, their behavior, and their performance. This transition can also create some tension because oftentimes when we give people constructive feedback and they're used to being our equal, it doesn't always go so well. Then there are those people who we've been in that peer-to-peer relationship with. They may not take us seriously and give us the respect that we think we deserve now that we're in a supervisory role. We also have new challenges that we have to address. And now we look up and we have less time to do the things that we're quote unquote paid to do or the operational duties. So what I created was 6 strategies that we could use to transition from being a peer to a supervisor. I call it the 6 C's to supervision. The first C we'll talk about is connecting. The second C, consistency. Number 3, compassion. 4, character. 5, coaching. And then number 6, confidence. So this will be the 6 C's to supervision. So let's talk a little bit about connecting. You know, John Maxwell is very well known for his book, Everyone Communicates, Few Connects. John's work has helped me tremendously in doing a better job with connecting with people. So John says, making a difference in your work, it's not about productivity. It's about people. When you focus on others and connect with them, you can work together to accomplish great things. We're here as a team and our objective is to carry out a mission or a goal. And so what John's quote is telling us here is, it's not really about the work. It's more important to focus on the people. And when we connect with them, we're able to therefore get the work done. Now, one of the quotes that John is most famous for, and I promise you, I probably use this quote more than any, but it's really true. John says, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. You know, many of us are very focused on getting more knowledge, getting more education and certifications. All of that's fine. I'm an advocate of those things. But the truth of the matter is, nobody cares about all of that until they know that we care about them first. Now, a famous poet here in the United States name is Maya Angelou. She's renowned. Some of her books and her quotes are just phenomenal. But my favorite quote from her is, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. To me, this anchors John's point about connecting relationships. When we leave people feeling good about themselves, we impact them for a lifetime. Like I said, they won't remember exactly what we said. They will just say, you know what? I really enjoyed working with Rita. It was a great experience. Now, in John's book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, and again, the book, Everyone Communicates, Few Connects, he talks about that law, and it's law number 10, the law of connection. What he tells us is, true leaders touch a heart before they ask for a hand. So when we're asking for a hand, what that is symbolic of is we want people to help us to do something, maybe complete a report, turn in an assignment. And what he's saying is, as the leader, the supervisor, we must first, again, touch their heart, whether that is what's the core mission of the organization, but also that we care. He also says the stronger the relationship and connection between individuals, the more likely the follower will want to help the leader. I'm sure you all have seen teams when it looked like no one was trying to help the leader. All they did was the bare minimum. Some of that is because there were no strong relationships there. There was no connection. When people care about you, they will work harder and more diligently to make you look good as the leader. So there's 6 keys to this connection. The first one is personal authenticity. You don't have to be me and I don't have to be you, but what we have to do is be true to who we are. You know, oftentimes people say things in the US like, oh, I'll fake it until I make it. No, we don't want to do that. We don't want to be a fake leader. We should be authentic, because the truth of the matter is, if we begin to fake it, people will know. Our authenticity is what will win them over. That can also include telling them, I'm not naturally good at this. People will respect that and they will honor that. The other key, the next key is relationship. Again, we must have a relationship beyond just hello and goodbye. We have to be approachable. So that means the people who have questions, who want more, who are concerned, maybe they're confused, they have to feel like they can walk up to the supervisor or the leader and ask whatever question it is, no matter how unintelligent it may sound, and know that they won't be chastised or reprimanded. We have to be approachable. Mutual respect. There's a saying that goes, in order to get respect, we must first give respect. So when we respect our team, respect our employees, or train our supervisors, those of us in this HR lane, to respect the team, the leader is then respected back. Number 5, believe in people. Everybody wants someone to believe in them. I don't care who they are. And so when we as leaders and supervisors tell our team, hey, I believe you can do that. Even if you've never done it before, I believe in you. I see great potential in you. We're building that connection with them. And then last but not least, the relationship has to have meaning and depth. So it can't just be, hi, Rita, how are you? Did you have a great weekend? And then I walk off. If she shares with me something, a fact, I went on vacation last month to, the US. The next time I see her, I should be able to say, hey, have you been to the US again? Or do you have pictures from your vacation? But something that says to her, I care about you beyond the basic conversation. So when it comes to connecting, what I want to leave you with is, number one, everyone can do it. Again, for some people, it may come easier than others, but trust me when I tell you, we all can grow in this area. Even if it's not easy for us, because some of us are more of introverts, we're more quiet and reserved. It is a learned skill, and if practiced, we can get better at it. I encourage everybody to find ways to connect with those you are not close to. It's easy to connect with people you have things in common with. All of us on this call have an interest and a vocation in human resources, so we have something in common. We could probably build a connection really easy. But what about people who study something different or do something different on our teams? Are we looking to find that common ground and build that connection? Another thing I tell people is to tell people what they want and need versus what we want to say. So when you connect with a person, you give the audience what they want. Or if they need something from you, you say it in the way that they want to hear it. One of the things I think is really important is validating people. Oftentimes when I do HR trainings, people confuse validation with agreement. When we validate a person's feelings, their thoughts, and their opinions, we're not saying we agree with them. What we're telling them is, number one, you matter, what you think matters, and it's important for me to understand it. Doesn't mean I have to agree with it, but it does mean that I validate it and say you have the right to have that viewpoint. And then last but not least, when it comes to connecting, it's not about you. It's about the other person. If we really want to have a better connection with people, whether that's in our personal or professional life, we have to realize it's not about us. Now, the second C we're going to talk about is consistency. Consistency means conformity in the application of something. Typically, that which is necessary for the sake of logic, accuracy, or fairness. Now, being in the HR lane, we all know we work hard to ensure leaders, organizations, and people follow policies consistently and fairly. So in this case, what we're describing is being consistent in the application and administration of supervision. So there are compliance, there are rules, there's guidelines, there are laws, all of these things that could be included in our employee handbooks and protocols. But whatever it is we have to consistently administer them. One of the things I always tell people when I talk about being consistent is treat equally situated people equally. It sounds like a little bit of a tongue twister, but the point I'm making is forget the names. Let's focus on the facts or the situation. Because when we deal with the facts, the situation, now we're not evaluating people, we're evaluating performance, we're evaluating circumstances, we're evaluating conduct, and we can be blind to who did it. That ensures consistency. In HR, we have to deal with things such as performance ratings to decide who gets promoted or who gets an award or who gets an opportunity to get a bonus. If the data is objective and we're looking at facts based on unbiased criteria, we're able to be consistent. Sometimes it's about discipline. So if there is a consequence for a particular act, We just understand that if X happens, the consequence is Y. Not saying, oh, well, if Sylvia did it, I'll handle it differently than I'll handle it if Rita did it. No, that's not consistency. Also, sometimes in HR, we have to conduct interviews of candidates applying for jobs or promotions. Can we cover the names if we wrote down the answers in the interview and just evaluate the response versus allowing our personal biases or how, they were dressed or other things influence how we do what we do? So as a supervisor, it's really important, again, that we're consistent and we treat equally situated people equally. So focus on the facts or the situation. Now, oftentimes as a supervisor, we don't implement the rules or the policies. And those of us at HR, we are frustrated because we know what the handbook says. I encourage us to say, if there are rules that we don't feel comfortable having enforced, then maybe as an organization, we should look at removing those from the book. Also sit down and collectively come up with something new that we can all have buy-in on. Because if the team doesn't have buy-in on the consequence, I can promise you it will not be consistently applied. Some leaders and supervisors will enforce that policy, and then you will have some that don't. And then that's how we end up with complaints, grievances, and disgruntled employees. We also have to handle those we like personally and those we don't know at all, or if there's potentially someone we really don't care for, the same way based on the situation and circumstances. Our actions and decisions and our policies should be able to withstand outside scrutiny. So what I mean by that is if a third party came in and looked at our performance appraisals, our awards, our discipline, they should be able to look at the paper documents alone with no names attached and agree that consistently the policies and procedures or the protocol was handled. And then the last thing, of course, than being consistent is leading by example. So again, consistently demonstrating that helps others do the same thing. Our next C, number 3, is compassion. Compassion motivates people to go out of their way to help the physical, mental, or emotional pains of another and themselves. So when we talk about people being compassionate, basically what we're saying is they have a sensitivity to other people's suffering. And they also have a sensitivity to fairness and justice. And so it helps us to apply sound judgment. So compassion in a nutshell is about having a heart, caring about people, being concerned about them, and not being so rigid. So when we think about compassion, one of the things I want to highlight for you is, number one, people are not loyal to products. People are not loyal to organizations. People are loyal to people. I'm sure many of you have seen or could have been in situations like this yourselves, where an opportunity to go work somewhere else presented itself. But because you worked in a place that treated you well and the supervisor was good to you and was helping mentor and grow you, that you said, you know what, I'm going to stay put. I'm loyal here and I want to stay with this organization. One thing that we do often see, not 100%, but often, that people don't quit jobs. They quit their leaders and their supervisors. So if they don't feel valued, treated well, they're not, having that connection or feel that compassion, they go look somewhere else. So what I want us to do is, number one, remember that once we were new and inexperienced. Oftentimes with junior people or we're supervising people, we hold them to a higher standard than we would have held ourselves to 10, 15 years ago. You know, sometimes we forget about the compassion someone showed us when we were new and inexperienced and made what we would consider bad decisions. The other thing is we want to care for the people more than we care about the rules. More than likely, as an HR professional, following the rules is very important to you. I know it is for me. But what I had to realize was the reasons why the rules were in place was because I wanted to protect the people. So the people should always be our priority. Now, there'll be times when discipline or reprimand is needed or required. I encourage us to always leave people whole. And what I mean by that is complete, as in they don't feel less than or devalued or put down. So even when having some of the most difficult conversations that we may have to have, including in HR, sometimes we're the person that lays people off or terminates them, right? Or have that discussion. We want to show compassion. We want that person to know that we care about them. And if it's a performance issue, let them know that we're vested and they're still a member of our team. But having said that, compassion should never be used as a reason to fail to carry out the consistency in the application of what it is that we do. So the fourth C, character. Character is the mental and moral qualities distinctive to an individual. So sometimes in our relationships with people, we want to, we see where there's been good character or bad character. I don't know about you, but I have actually worked for people who weren't always truthful with me. When I lost that respect for them, it was hard to get back. So we want to lead by example. We want to tell our team the truth. There are times when you're in human resources or as a leader, you know things other people don't know. Let's say there's a pending merger or downsizing, and because we're part of the human resource team or we're the supervisor, we get privy to information that's not public information. Someone may ask us, hey, what do you know about the downsizing or the potential layoff? I say we never tell them a lie. What we can say is, I'm not allowed to discuss that. This is privileged information. Trust the organization will let you know whatever's coming next as soon as we can. But whatever it is you say, you don't tell them it's not going to happen just so that they won't panic and then later it does happen. Also, you want to demonstrate integrity. You want to be true to the things that you say you're going to do. Our word should be dependable. It's no different than when a month ago, I made an appointment to be here tonight, or it's tonight in the US, but be here Saturday morning to do this training. Absent an emergency, Rita and whomever else signed up is expecting me to show up. So our character says when we tell someone something, our word is dependable. So again, good character. When we operate in this way, it's as if we are administering justice blindly, and our team can trust us because they know we will have integrity. We'll tell them the truth, and we'll lead by example. So here's what we do know. Once your character has been compromised, it is hard to recover. It's not impossible, but it will take you twice as long to build that trust back up than it did to destroy it. Mm-hmm. When we lack good character in leadership and supervision, it has an adverse impact on morale. People are not happy about coming to work for us. People are not happy about being here. Instead of spending time working, they're double checking everything we say to them because they don't trust us. Character is also what's revealed under periods of stress. You know, I can pretend to be a certain kind of way, but when stress shows up, the real me always does as well. So if we implement things and build our character up, we can withstand those stressful situations. I always like to say character and integrity, it's about who you are when no one's watching. Now, as you see in the slides, I also put a parentheses, or when you think no one is watching. I promise you, someone always sees us. Always. So one of the things when I worked for our government was if an employee was late for work, we were supposed to dock them their time or mark them tardy. But I noticed some of the leaders didn't dock themselves. And so that was one of the reasons I had to have this conversation. How are you leading by example? You're holding them to a standard you don't hold yourself to. So do you apply the rules you enforce for yourself? Or do we sometimes think we're above the rules? Again, I believe no organization should have any rule that everyone doesn't follow. And then lastly, are you forthright and honest, even in the face of adversity? If the answer is yes to these questions, then you're practicing good character. Now, coaching, number 5. Coaching is how we client in achieving a specific personal or professional goal by giving them training or guidance. Now, sometimes coaching may mean an informal relationship between two people, of whom one of the people has more experience and expertise than the other. And so they're offering guidance and advice. But coaching is different from mentoring in focusing on specific tasks and objectives, as opposed to having more general goals or overall development. Now, I encourage all supervisors, and especially for people who are starting that transition, to have these discussions continually throughout the year so that the team can see, one, that you're invested in their success. But as far as formal coaching sessions, while there's no minimum number required, I encourage people to meet with their employees quarterly, but definitely no less than biannually to do a check-in. No one wants to end up at the last day of the performance rating or at the time of an appraisal and hear something that they had been doing wrong the whole time. So that's why if we coach them, we can correct the behavior immediately or the performance and get clarity. Coaching is fundamental to our employee growth and development. And it's really the one true method to improve and maintain sustained results. So what's the premise behind coaching? Well, the first one is the person does not need to be fixed. We're not fixing people when we coach them because they're not broken. We are saying under this premise that there is nothing wrong with them. Coaching also is not training or mentoring. In essence, what we're saying is the person is 100% fully potentiated. They have the potential to do the thing that we're trying to accomplish. So let me give you an example. Let's say someone on my team has the responsibility of compiling weekly attendance data. Week 1, they compile it, they turn it in on time. Week 2, they compile it and turn it in on time. Then week 3, 4, and 5, they don't. Often what happens is, as supervisors, we say, oh, we need to send them to training. No, we don't. They know how to do it. Training is to teach a person how to do something and give them a skill that they don't have. If in weeks 1 and 2, my employee successfully completed this task, they don't need training, they need coaching. Because I need to help them arrive at the conclusion of the value of the report, figure out how to get it done, and help them work through what's not happening and keeping them from doing it. When we coach people to support them in their growth, we're with them side by side, supporting them, talking to them, asking the right types of questions to get them to arrive at the conclusions that we want them to. Now, when you coach a team member or an organization, it doesn't require that you become a certified coach. That's a different type of coaching. The coaching we're talking about is providing a series of thought-provoking questions that allows the employee to conduct self-analysis and arrive at the solution with your assistance. Again, different than certified coaching, but similar premise. When we coach our employees and coach one another, one of the things that we do is, one, we raise awareness. The learning that they achieve comes from within versus outside influences. Therefore, it's more sustained. When I was a child, I often, if I came across a word, if I was writing that I could not spell, I would go to my mother and say, "Hey, Mom, how do you spell whatever the word is?" My mother never told me how to spell the word. She would always say either look it up or sound it out. She was coaching me. She was helping me arrive at how to get the answer for myself. I can promise you that the words that I learned how to spell and figure out on my own stayed with me. Versus if she gave me the answer, I knew it temporarily, and then 6 months later when the word came up again, I had to ask somebody again how to spell it. So these are the reasons why we want to coach, because we want to have sustained success. The other thing about coaching is it provides for a safe place for people to fail forward. We are all going to make mistakes, and we need to create environments where people can know it's okay if I'm not perfect, because if I mess up, you'll coach me through it, talk me through it, ask me the right questions, so the next time I encounter this situation, I'll make a better decision. So they fail forward. It's the most effective way, again, to develop someone, because they arrive at the best solutions. We want our team to be successful. We want to know when we're not there, they have the tools, the resources to think through problems and achieve success. The last C in this strategy is confidence. Now, confidence is generally described as a state of being certain, either that a hypothesis or prediction is correct, or that the chosen course of action is the best and most effective. Self-confidence is having confidence in yourself. And now we're not talking about arrogance, because when you're arrogant, you're really having confidence that's not merited. We're talking about being full of conviction, having or showing assurance and reliance. So when we're confident, we also acknowledge that we don't know it all. And for many people, this is why they're not confident, because they're busy thinking about what they don't know. So what I'm saying is, understand that we'll never know it all, but we can still be confident in what we are good at and what we do know. Also know that, again, we're going to make mistakes. We will make mistakes, but that's okay. Have the confidence to know that you'll grow through that mistake. My years doing human resources, and again, 28 years, is that the biggest mistakes most supervisors make is not in what they did, but it's in what they did not do. They were paralyzed. They didn't take action. And as a result of that, they failed to do what needed to be done. In life, we have to make decisions. Sometimes there'll be bad ones, but I still believe that a bad decision is better than no decision at all, because guess what? No decision is basically the decision not to do anything. So it still really is a decision. The other part of that is if I ended up making a bad decision, number one, it wasn't done intentionally. But when I go back and reflect, I can evaluate that bad decision and make it better the next time so I improve. Also know if someone has selected you for a position, promoted you to make that transition, that you were selected based on your merits, and so you're equipped. So you can be confident in the fact that you're qualified to do what it is you were called to do. And then the other thing we have to remember is others feed off our confidence. So if we're in the leadership position and we are not confident, our team won't be assured either. So the confidence or lack thereof that we have affects other people that we work with. So we've talked about the 6 C's. What are the benefits of applying this strategy? In your organization, I guarantee you, if you connect with people, show compassion, are consistent, coach them, have confidence, morale will improve. I have no doubt. The employees in the organization will be more successful. People will be more engaged. They'll be connected. They'll be involved. The work environment will be more positive because, again, we're building relationship rapport. We're exhibiting good character. People believe in us. They believe in the organization. This will be the place that people will want to come and work. We'll also have teamwork because we'll all support and celebrate each other's accomplishments. And it's a way for us to grow personally and professionally. Change is hard. It's hard for the person who used to be the peer as well as the person who is now the supervisor. So understand that just as people who are in the job of transitioning may have some difficulty operating in this new role, the people who used to know them that way are having some struggles potentially also. Everybody is trying to figure out their bearings and the dynamics of this new relationship. So we can help them adjust as we adjust as well. One of the things I encourage people to do is actually sit down and have a meeting with the team and say, look, I understand our roles and our relationship has changed. Educate them on your expectations so they'll know what it is you expect of them in this new relationship. But then also share with them how to get the best out of you. So if you prefer data or memos versus phone calls, whatever that thing is, share that with your team so they'll know. Now, sometimes when we take on leadership and supervisory positions, we inherit a bad situation. But don't lament in that or be a victim. Someone selected you as the correct person to right the wrong or right the ship. So go ahead and do it. So this ends my presentation on the 6 C's or the strategy to transitioning from a peer to supervisor. And I would love to open it up for questions about anything that I said or something that you think is a common issue with transition that you thought of that I didn't that we can discuss. I'm open to any questions that you may have.
Okay, let me start with my question,
Okay.
Angela. Firstly, I really love your presentation, especially on these 6 C's, which really helped me to remember well. And among these 6 C's are particularly like connections. So when you were talking about connections and so and some of the examples, I was really inspired by what you were sharing with us. So thank you for that. So now is my question: if I have a boss who really does not connect with people, what he thinks is about himself. And I think this could be his character and because of his background and encounters and so forth. So as a human resources manager, how can we persuade the boss that you need to connect with people? Because the boss will, especially bosses in Asia, they are not that open-minded, okay? They always think that I'm the boss, you have to listen to me. Why do you have to listen to you? So under that kind of situation, what should we do in order to create an environment everybody will feel connected?
That's a great question. So thank you for asking it.
Uh-huh.
One of the first things that jumped out to me when you asked that question was to, maybe have the discussion and ask your manager, would you rather have people do the right thing out of obligation or coercion, or do it out of cooperation? People tend to cooperate with people that they're connected with. It's easy, it's smooth. But when people do the right thing only because of the consequence or because of the, out of compliance or coercion, you get the end result, but it's a different path. It's kind of like if we were going to take a trip, we could walk and it would take us a lot longer to get there. We could get in our car. We'll still end up at the end. And so what you're going to help them see, so I believe that oftentimes people who are not as relational are more task focused, like what do we need to get done? So what you can help them understand is we could get the things we want to get done accomplished a lot faster if everybody voluntarily comes on the journey with us versus only doing what they have to do because there is no relationship. We work harder for people we like and care for. We just do. We'll work into the wee hours. We'll go above and beyond, as we say. So the boss wants the result. And so I think our responsibility is to help them to know is we can achieve these results and achieve them a lot quicker and with less personnel issues if we build these relationships. So treating connecting as another task. Once, for one of my managers, one time what I did was I sat with them and said, I want you to schedule on your calendar that once a week you will pick up the phone and call one of your direct reports that's in another office just to check in and say, hey, I just thought I'd call. How things going? Is everything okay? It may only be for 5 minutes, but it was creating an opportunity for those people to hear from him for no reason at all versus only when he needed something or something went wrong. So it was still a task because he was very task focused, but it was a task built around relationship.
Okay, thank you, Angela. I will try.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So, Angela, we have a question from Ms. Pram.
Okay.
Her question is that, how can we change a supervisor's attitude if he doesn't understand what the professional supervisor, as you mentioned in your presentation?
Well, thank you. You said Ms. Brown asked that question?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So first I have to say we can't change anybody's attitude. Now, I think I get the gist of still the question though, right? Yeah. What we can do is coach them up. So I think sometimes when we think about coaching people, we think about coaching people who are either on our level in that hierarchy system or maybe at a lower level, but actually you can coach up. I have personally coached up the chain, because what happens is you ask questions and things that help them to arrive at the conclusion that you wanted to get them to. So you're not changing them, you're not forcing them, you're not directing them, but what you're doing is helping them to see this is a better way. So I think you mentioned professionalism. So let's just say one of the ways that they're not professional is the way they dress.
Mhm.
You know, what we can say is something like, it could be complimenting, you know, when we see someone dressed in the ways that we think are professional, so they can hear, oh, that's what people think is nice. But then also saying, hey, have you ever thought about, you know, wearing this, that, or the other? You know, what do you like about these type of clothes? What's more comfortable or whatever, if that was the dress was the issue. So it's not to tell an employee, or a supervisor how to dress or how to speak to people, but it's to say, you know, let's use a different example. Let's say the supervisor yelled at people, so they were unprofessional.
Mm.
You could say, what do you think would happen if you asked Angela about that versus yelling at her? And then let him give you the answer. When we coach people, there's no right and wrong answer. So whatever the answer is, it follows up with another coaching question until we get them to arrive at the solution. So let's just say he said, well, if I asked her, she probably wouldn't know. And then you could say, okay, well, then how do we help her know? But it still comes with another question. So I think coaching might be a way we could help our supervisors, but it's a learned skill again. So we would have to, you know, maybe create some coursework on helping us figure out how do we coach
Mhm.
up, coach, you know, across, and also coach down.
Mm. Good. So did it answer your question, Miss Prem?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Any other questions, like from Sylvia? Sylvia, do you have any questions? Maybe she's not able to hear me. Sylvia? Okay, so if no other questions, so we would conclude the session today. So I would like to say thank you again to Angela for your wonderful presentation. And if all of you wanted to know more about this topic, I'm sure that Angela will be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. And so okay, a question from Sylvia. Maybe she prefers typing instead of speaking to us. Okay, so here comes the question from Sylvia. How to assess the men are ready to be supervisors? How do we do the assessment, whether they are ready to be a supervisor or not?
So it's interesting. I'm actually in the process of creating some content to ask those questions. I've created this assessment actually that I think is really good for people to do. It's more of a self-evaluation, but I think it could be used in our field as well, as in, you know, there's just certain inherent things that come with supervision. And we talked about some of them, as in you're accountable for other people's work and their behavior, um, dealing with discipline, understanding policy, accountability. So these are some of the core things that a supervisor has to deal with. And so when we're evaluating, you know, qualifications, the first thing before I would ever let anyone lead or direct other people is, have they demonstrated they can lead themselves? You know, so can they manage their own work? Can they manage their own task? You know, things of that matter. Because if you can't manage yourself, you definitely can't manage other people. I just don't see how you could do that. Not successfully anyway. So that would be one thing. The other thing is, do they care about the other people? As supervisors, we got to care. I mean, it's really important because that's how we get the best out of the people. Do we have the ability to prioritize what's the most important? thing. You know, people talk a lot about time management. Well, I don't believe we manage time, but we manage our priorities. So is that person able to prioritize what is the core mission? What do we need to be doing? Can they delegate? I mean, so some of these skills that we know are really important, and then, you know, evaluate them. So come up with some kind of matrix or metrics is what I did, and say, these are the core competencies of this position. And then I would rate each application and or interview questions based on this criteria. And then I would tally up the points, and they had to have, you know, a certain amount of points in order to demonstrate that they had that capability. I think being able to communicate effectively is core as well. So these would be some of the things I would look at to answer that question. Does that help?
Sylvia? So thank you, Angela. But while you were mentioning about the first point, right, it has made me to remember that I'm from Hong Kong, but I spent more than a year in Singapore before I returned to Hong Kong this year. So when I was in Singapore, I was actually I was with a group of teenagers, and then in Singapore, and that group of teenagers actually were receiving training on leadership. So basically, we wanted to develop them as young leaders. And there came a question from them. They asked them, why would you train us as a leader? You know, and we are so young. I don't think we need to have any followers. You know, it takes maybe a few more years for us to be a manager of the company. Why would you train us at such age? At that time, I was not able to give them a regular answer. And then after that, I asked the people around, especially the mentee, the coaches and trainers from the John Maxwell team. And I also got the answer from you, Angela. The most difficult person that we manage is ourselves. If we can manage and lead ourselves properly, I think we can lead or manage other people properly. So as you mentioned that, oh, we need to lead ourselves and manage ourselves, that has made me to remember that, yeah, at that time, some of the youngsters did raise a question. Why do you need me to receive the kind of training, you know? Because for them, leadership is it only happens in a company environment. Since it takes maybe 10 years or maybe 5 years for them to work in a company, and also maybe take another 10 years for them to be a manager. Why would they learn such skill at this stage? But it's very true that we need to learn how to manage ourselves, right? Before we can
Definitely.
manage
And I'll add to that, Rita. I think that was an excellent question those young people asked, and that's a great response. But the other thing is this, and I think we learned this also from our time with the John Maxwell team, the true definition of leadership is influence. Yeah. Everybody has a certain degree of influence. Some have more than others. And so we get to choose and decide every day, will we use that influence for good and add value to people, or not? And so when we understand the power of that influence, it could be something as small as whether or not we make a decision to disobey our parents as kids. You know, if you have multiple kids in the same family, and our parents say, you know, don't get in the ice cream, and one of the kids say, well, I want some ice cream, so I'm gonna do it anyway. They were the leader in that situation. If the other kids follow suit and he influences them to eat the ice cream that mom and dad said not to eat. So that's why we start teaching them early, because we want them to understand they have influence and they can choose to either use it for good or not.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. Yeah, can't agree with you more. Okay, so Zoe comes to the leadership, another big topic, right? So anyway, thanks Angela again, and that has concluded our session today. And we